Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pracharine Visheshashan Krishna Dedeshtan Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasa Lord Bhaktan Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam Granth Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. The Lila of Prahlad Maharaj being delivered by Hiranyakashipu, being delivered by Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Nrsingadev's Nrsinga avatar, appearance of Lord Nrsingadev, delivering Prahlad Maharaj and vanquishing the demon Hiranyakashipu. This is a very extensive section of Srimad Bhagavatam, very extensive Lila of Srimad Bhagavatam. It extends for 10 chapters. And particularly, we'll say the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj were very much appreciated by Srila Prabhupada. He would often quote the transcendental teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. There is a publication, the transcendental teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. And Prabhupada liked these verses of Prahlad's Uvacha, Prahlad's preaching to Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad's preaching to his school friends. Srila Prabhupada liked these verses tremendously and would regularly quote them. So the first demon, actually the prototype demon, was the brother of Hiranyakashipu. His name was Hiranyaksha. And he was defeated by the Lord. And being very much upset and very much angry that Hiranyaksha had been killed by Lord Vishnu, Hiranyakashipu, he went to Mandalachara mountains. We're reading actually from the second chapter of the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's where the pastimes of Nrsinga Avatar appear in the second chapter of the 7th canto. So Hiranyakashipu, he went to Mandarachala mountain, and he began performing penances there. So his penances were so extraordinary. You can see the picture of him in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's standing on his tiptoes for 100 celestial years. That's thousands of earthly years. 100 celestial years, standing on his tiptoes, with his upraised arms and toes erect, standing on tiptoes with arms raised like that for thousands of years. And his tapasya had become so great, it was so intense that a blazing fire was emanating from his head, which was disturbing the entire universe. And for this reason, the demigods, they were feeling the heat, which was emanating from the head of Hiranyakashipu as he was performing penances as Mandalachara mountain. So all the demigods, they approached Lord Brahma and they requested that he do something about this circumstance. So then Lord Brahma, actually Hiranyakashipu, he's considered a devotee of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma went there and he inquired from Hiranyakashipu. First of all, he was astonished to find that on that Mandarachala mountain, there was no body of Hiranyakashipu. His body, what had happened to his body? There was only an ant hill, a termite ant hill. So his flesh had all been eaten away by the ants, and his fat and the marrow, everything, blood, there was nothing remaining. He was in the anthill, simply in the skeleton form, buried, and his life air was circulating through the skeleton form. He'd been doing that penance. So Lord Brahma was completely astonished to see that somebody could perform such penances. He'd never seen such penances performed before, and so he was astonished. He was taken aback, Lord Brahma, and he sprinkled water. Lord Brahma carrying the kamandalu. He sprinkled the water from his kamandalu onto the Lord Brahma's, the water in Lord Brahma's. He is Ganga Jal. That's also purifying. The water in Lord Brahma's kamandalu, that was very transcendental, and so that revived the body of Hiranyakashipu. And he came out of that anthill in a strong, lustrous, youthful-like body as he sprang from that anthill. And then Hiranyakashipu, he bowed down to Lord Brahma many times. And as we mentioned, he's considered a devotee of Lord Brahma. He bowed down to Lord Brahma many, many times, offering respects again and again. And then he revealed, Lord Brahma asked, so, what can I do for you? You're performing such penances and austerities, take a boon from me. And he requested that he would like the boon of immortality. Immortality, that was his desire, immortality. So Lord Brahma, he himself is not immortal. Sahasra Yuga Paryanta Mahaya Brahmano Vidu. In Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, it describes the daytime of Lord Brahma is 1,000 yugas taken together. Dibya Yuga times 1,000, Satya Treta Kali Dwapara Yuga. 1,000 cycles, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. It's the daytime of Lord Brahma, Ahaya Brahmano Vishu. And similarly, his nighttime is 1,000 yugas. And he lives for 100 such celestial years. And then Lord Brahma, he gives up the body as the end of the creation, and he returns back to the spiritual world. So Lord Brahma himself is not immortal. So how can he's mentioning, how can he offer the benediction of immortality when he himself doesn't possess that thing? Similarly, in Krishna consciousness, one has to develop Krishna consciousness and then become a preacher of Krishna consciousness. At least one should have some inclination toward chanting the holy name of the Lord. And then one can induce others to take up the chanting of the holy name. Radha Krishna Bolo Shonge Cholo E Matro Bikachai E Shikaniya Shabanadia Fichin Neje Gornidai. Mahaprabhu, he assumes the form of a devotee, Bhakta Rupa, and he preaches devotional service, Krishna Bhakti. So he himself is demonstrating Krishna Bhakti and he's preaching Krishna Bhakti. And in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it mentions that Apni na korele shikana na jai eto shidanta gita bhagavad gai. If we're not performing yourself, your teachings and your preaching will not be effective. So one has to have something to be able to offer it as a benediction to others. So in this case, Lord Brahma was unable to offer immortality to Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu, he had a plan B. This is called Duskritinaha, the Sukritinaha and the Duskritinaha. Duskritinaha means that they're crooked very intelligently. Duskritinaha means they're very intelligently crooked. That's a Duskriti. And the Sukriti means they're very intelligently good and pious. So he's Duskriti. So even though Lord Brahma was unable, because he didn't have it himself, Lord Brahma was unable to offer the benediction of immortality to Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was prepared for that outcome and he had a plan B. So he said, okay, then you give me these things. And he had it all thought out in advance. Obviously, these requests are not something that he immediately thought of on the spot. He had it planned out in advance. And he mentions that my benediction is that I will not meet death from any living entity, any living being created by you. Nor will I die within a residence or outside a residence. And give me these benedictions. Nor will I die during the daytime or the nighttime. Nor will I die on the ground or in the sky. Nor will I die by any weapon. Nor by any creature created by you, any creature created by you or by someone else. Nor by any human being, nor by any animal, nor by any entity, living or non-living, nor by any great demigod, nor great snake from the lower planets. And so he's saying that he's thinking that in this way no one can come in, no created being, no daytime, no nighttime, inside, outside, no weapon, no extraordinary being. He's thinking very cleverly that this is Duskritinaha, very intelligently miscreant. He's thinking that in this way, even though he can't give me immortality, but I can get all of these things and it's as good as immortality. No one will be able to kill me. And in addition, seeing as that he had Lord Brahma there as a captive audience, in addition, he said that you grant me the benediction that I may have no rival. Aham bhogi siddha aham balavana. This is the desire of the demoniac, materialistic, extremely materialistic person, that they want to be the supreme enjoyer without a rival, without rival. They want to be exclusively the supreme enjoyer without any competitor. Just like it was very frustrating for Duryodhana when he was invited to the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Yudhishthira Maharaj in Indraprastha, which was a desert, which had been granted to the Pandavas by the Kauravas as a desert. And Lord Krishna went there with him, and he glanced over that barren land of Indraprastha, and he turned it into a beautiful kingdom with rivers and agricultural fields and hermitages and opulence, Indraprastha. And when Yudhishthira performed the Rajasuya sacrifice, that he had so much opulence, it's described that every time 1,000 Brahmins, just like if you visit Mayapur, you can go to Gada and Gita Bhavan Prashadam, or big Prashadam, 1,000 people can sit at one time and take Prashadam. So every time 1,000 Brahmins were satisfied, taking full Prashadam in the Rajasuya sacrifice of King Yudhishthira, when 1,000 Brahmins were satisfied, the conches were blowing. Conches were blowing. And so that blowing of conches was incessant. Yudhishthira Maharaj had such an arrangement for feeding Brahmins that constantly thousands and thousands of Brahmins were being satisfied. When he saw this, Duryodhana, he couldn't tolerate it. And therefore, at least we have to take whatever they have and banish them to the forest. So this is the nature. No rival. He wants no rival. Grant me lordship over all living entities and all the glories attained in that position. Not only does he want to be the extreme executive controller, but all the glories. He wants all the glories that are connected, obtained by that position. He also wants. And in addition, give me all the mystic powers, all the yogic mystic powers. Just throw it in order. All the 8 mystic cities. You give me all of those as well, which can only be attained after long practice of yoga and austerity. So after such a request, Lord Brahma was somewhat astonished, but he said that what you have asked for, Hiranyakashipu, what you have asked for is very difficult to attain. But nonetheless, I will grant you these benedictions. And then, having been awarded these benedictions as a result of his extraordinary tapasya, Hiranyakashipu, he unleashed a reign of terror upon the universe because he becomes so puffed up. He's actually thinking that he's unconquerable. He's thinking that he's immortal. And he has attained so many benedictions to achieve all of these things and have all the 8 mystic cities. And so he became very puffed up, and he unleashed a reign of terror throughout the universe as he was the universal controller. He conquered all the directions, 10 directions, and he conquered all the 3 worlds. Tribhuvana conquered. Heavenly planets, lower planets, everything, not just his earth. He was the ruler of the universe. All the demigods, the asuras, all the residents of Indraloka, Vishvakarma, everything driven out, and he occupied the palace of King Indra. So Bhagavatam describes, actually it's Narad Muni, he's describing the great luxury that Hiranyakashipu enjoyed in the palace of King Indra. The steps of the palace of King Indra were made of coral, and the floor was bedecked with valuable emeralds, and the walls were bedecked with crystals and columns of Vaidurya stone, with canopies, beautiful silk canopies across the ceilings. And the seats, they were bedecked with rubies. And the ladies, there were many, many beautiful damsels who would be wandering around the palace of Hiranyakashipu. And their beautiful faces were reflected in the crystals and in the Vaidurya and in the rubies that were in the columns and the pillars. They were very beautifully dressed and very gorgeously attractive women, and they were there associating with Hiranyakashipu. And there was soft bedding, which was with silk sheets, which is as white as foam. And there was, when those ladies, they walked through the palaces, the sound of their ankle bells, it tinkled melodiously through the gorgeous palatial building. So all of the demigods, they had to bow down Hiranyakashipu, all of the demigods, even Narad Muni himself. He mentions that he was obliged to glorify Hiranyakashipu and Narad Muni. So all the beings within the three worlds, Sri Bhubane, all beings within the three worlds were forced to become the servants and show respect and fall down at the feet of Hiranyakashipu, except for three people: Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. And all others became his servants. And he would chastise. He was very severe autocrat. And he was constantly drunk on strong smelling liquors and wine. And he would be always fuming with anger and unnecessarily chastising the demigods who are responsible for the various universal functions. He was constantly chastising them in an unreasonable way. And this is how he enjoyed his unrivaled reign as the Supreme Lord, Supreme Ruler of the universe. So now, it's chapter 5. There's a few chapters we've covered there. Now, chapter 5 of this canto describes the Prahlad Maharaj, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu. Now, Hiranyakashipu, it seems like he regularly would go for performing penances and austerities. That these great demons from the Satya Yuga, for instance, Satya Yuga Lila, from previous yugas in the ancient times, Puranic times, these great demons, they weren't like modern demons now. Modern demons are simply materialists and sense enjoyers, and they can't control their senses or their mind, and they're always just engaging in sense gratification. And uncontrolled senses, they go to hell. This is the modern demons. However, these great demons from the Puranic period, Satya Yuga, and that time, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they performed austerities. Hiranyakashipu, he would regularly go and perform yogashan and tapasya for hundreds and thousands of years. And he did that time. His body was just, his life force was sustained in his skeleton, and he got the benedictions from Lord Brahma. He became very empowered, surcharged, and they became the ruler of the universe. And then again, he went for performing austerities. So it's not just a constant life of indulgence and hedonism, no, because they understand the Vedic principles that by the Topodivya Putraka Yena Sattvam Shudye Brahmashokam Tunantam. In another place in the Bhagavatam, Rishabdev explains that Topodivya, but by austerity, Putriyena Sattvam Shudyed, one becomes purified, Brahmashokam Tunantam, and becomes eligible for unlimited enjoyment, unlimited spiritual happiness. This is spiritual, the tapasya given by the Lord and his representative. But even the materialist like Hiranyakashipu, he can perform such tapasya for enhancing. This is actually karma kanda, that one performs rituals and some sacrifices, which involves sense control, mind control, sacrifice. And in this way, one's enjoyment in this mature world is enriched, is enhanced. And in this way, Hiranyakashipu again went to Mount Kailash. This time he went to Mount Kailash. It was right up deep in the Himalayas, Mount Kailash. And he began performing very severe austerities. So at that time, Lord Brahma, he was worried again, like before, and he went and did, and he demanded these benedictions, and it caused it's such a threat. He's so out of control. He's causing such a disturbance to the universe, and I'm partly responsible because I empowered him with so many benedictions. So this time, Lord Brahma, when he saw that Hiranyakashipu was going off and again performing such fearful austerities, he was very concerned. At that time, Narad Muni came. Narad Muni, he's the son of Lord Brahma, Manasaputra, a mentor. 9 sons appeared from the mind of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, he's Aja. He's born from the lotus, and he's producing progeny by his mind, Manasaputra. and they become the Prajapatis. Daksha is one of the four Kumaras, Narad Muni, Bhrigu Muni. These great demigods, Daksha, they become the Prajapatis, they become the fathers. Manu, Satarupa, they become the fathers of mankind. So Lord Brahma creates in this way. So Narad Muni, he's a mental son. He appeared from the mind of Lord Brahma. He came with Parvat Muni, his associate. And then they said, we have a plan. We know what to do to prevent it becoming a more difficult, a more horrific situation with this demon becoming more surcharged and more empowered as a result of austerities. So Narad Muni and Parvat Muni, they went to Mount Kailash and they assumed the form of sparrows. This is actually described in Haribhakti Vilas. They assumed the form of sparrows. And then when Hiranyakashipu was sitting and doing his tapasya on Mount Kailash, his severe austerities, Narad Muni sitting on a tree nearby, just 3 times, he chanted Namo Narayana, Namo Narayanaya, Namo Narayanaya. So hearing this, Hiranyakashipu's meditation broke. In fact, this is the nature of such concentrated dharana meditation, that any small stimulus becomes very extraordinary. So Hiranyakashipu, he couldn't stop thinking of this mantra, Namo, and immediately he took his sword, he took his arrow to kill those birds. The birds flew away. Parvat Muni and Narad Muni, they flew away. So he was angry. His meditation broke. He was angry. He returned back to his palace. Meditation was broken. He was upset. So he returned back to his palace, and there he saw his beautiful wife, Kayadu. And she said, Prabhu, you had said before you left that you were going for 1,000 years to perform penances, but you have come back so quickly. Of course, she was very happy to see him return. And actually at that time, she had just completed her monthly period and taken bath. And so she was very, very, very attractive and very beautiful. And Hiranyakashipu, being attracted by his wife, he explained why he returned. He explained that these birds were there and they were chanting Om Namo Narayanaya. So he was thinking of it the whole time as he was coming back to his palace. That's the palace of Indradev, and he was thinking of it the whole time. And then he chanted Namo Narayanaya to his wife. It was still in his mind, and then he conceived. He enjoyed relief from his He took shelter, enjoying with Kayadu. The whole time he was thinking that mantra was in his mind, Namo Narayanaya, during conceiving. And also he had uttered that mantra, Namo Narayanaya, to Kayadu before they engaged in sexual activities. So in this way, the conception was very wonderful. And because his mind was absorbed in the sound vibration of Lord Hari, and also his wife had been purified by the hearing the mantra, Namo Narayanaya. So in this way, attracted by that consciousness, Sri Prahlad Maharaj appeared in the womb of Kayadu as the son of Hiranyakashipu. So in this way, the extraordinary circumstances, we find that such a demon, Hiranyakashipu, he's the greatest demon, actually. Hiranyakashipu is the greatest demon. He conquered the entire universe and all the demigods, and no one could control him. He was the archetype demon. And the Lord Sri Hari himself, Narahari himself, had to could actually vanquish this demon. It was not possible for anyone else to deal with this situation and deliver the world from this demon. So it's so extraordinary that such a demon, such an extreme demon as Hiranyakashipu can have such a child as Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Bali Vayashiki Vayam is one of the 12 great Mahajans on authorities on devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj, a perfect being, who attained the highest goal of Krishna consciousness by constant remembrance of the Lord. And the Lord appeared to deliver his devotee, Prahlad. That's how dear Prahlad Maharaj was to Narahari, that he personally appeared to deliver him. So such an extraordinary devotee, such an exalted devotee, Prahlad Narsimha, an eternal associate of the Lord, such an exalted being took birth in the womb of from the semen of such a demon. Well, what can we say? This can be possible by practice of Krishna consciousness, mantra vigyan, by chanting Hare Krishna. Dina hinna jopta chilo hariname udharilo ta ashaki jogai madha. Again, they came jogai madha. But this is the power of the holy name, that it can purify the consciousness of the most demoniac, and they can have such a child like Prahlad Maharaj. So those of us in Grihastha Ashram should take encouragement from this example. They're just chanting Namo Narayana, Namo Narayanaya, and the son like Prahlad Maharaj has produced. So when one goes for conceiving a child, then that should have done simply with the purpose of fulfilling one's desire and satisfying lust. That should be done to produce with the conscious intention to produce a great devotee, a great Vaishnava, a great servant of the Lord, a great follower of Srila Prabhupada, a sincere follower of Srila Prabhupada. That should be the consciousness of the husband and wife when they are conceiving the child. And it is quite possible that one can bring into this world a great Vaishnava, because there are such great Vaishnavas whose spiritual life was not complete in the previous life. They were unable to complete their practice of Krishna consciousness, and so they're waiting again to take birth in a family of purified Vaishnavas to be able to carry on from very young. Just like my friend Sitaram Prabhu, many of you know him, Sitaram Prabhu from Juhu. He's here living in Mayapur. He has four boys. 4 boys, and they're all born in Mayapur. They're all attending the Gurukul, learning Brahminical life, trained in Brahminical life. So such a birth, to be born in Mayapur, and immediately your brothers, these young boys, these brothers are all going to Gurukul. They're all learning mantra, tantra, puja, wearing dhoti tilak, rising early at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're born in a family like that. You grow up in an environment like that. What a head start that is for you in terms of this life, attaining the perfection of Krishna consciousness. So how is it that a person gets born in such a situation from the very, very birth, that they're in a highly advanced family or practicing an advanced level of Krishna consciousness, living in the holy name, full absorption in Krishna bhakti? How is it a person takes a birth in such a situation? So extraordinary, so rare, so easy for them to carry on with Krishna consciousness. How is it possible? Because in previous lives they were practicing, and now again they're taking birth to complete their Krishna consciousness. So there are many such souls, and if one qualifies himself in Grihastha life and prepares for bringing children into the world in that appropriate consciousness, then it's quite possible that one can be the parents of a great Vaishnava, and that Vaishnava can deliver you. Even if your own practice of Krishna consciousness is not perfect, but if you're able to train a devotee, train someone to become fixed in I see so many of these young men that grew up in Mayapur, that lived in Mayapur, that they were trained in Gurukul in Mayapur, they stay Krishna's devotee. They remain attached to the holy name. They remain attached to Krishna and the service of Lord and the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because of that powerful training that they had. So if you're able to provide that to a child, then that can take you back home to Godhead, your perfection of your child. So Hiranyakashipu, again, he went off after impregnating Kayadu. Again, he went off for more penances and austerities. And at that time, Indra and the demigods, they were a bit frustrated that Hiranyakashipu had occupied his palace. And so the demigods, they attacked the palace of Hiranyakashipu. At that time, Hiranyakashipu wasn't there. So they defeated Hiranyakashipu's followers and they captured Kayadu. And they were thinking, they didn't kill her on the spot. Nowadays, they would just kill her on the spot. But she's pregnant. They're thinking that we'll wait till the child is born, then we'll kill the child, because the seed of this great demon is in the womb of this woman. What a demon will be born from her womb. We're suffering so much at the abuse of Hiranyakashipu. His child, who knows what's going to happen. So we'll wait how much terror the universe will have to endure as a result of his child to be more of a demon. So they are waiting for Kayadu to give birth to Prahlada, and then the plan was to kill him. Now, at that time, Narad Muni, he came, because he's the knower of everything. And he spoke to the demigods, and he says, actually, the child in this womb is not a demon. The child in this womb is a great devotee. He went to Kailash, he was chanting Namo Narayanaya, so he knows everything. he knows the effect that had on Hiranyakashipu. He said the child is a great devotee. So the demigods, Indra, they immediately accepted. And this is another quality of the great rishis and munis, that the great rishis, the Raja rishis, they immediately accept the decision of Narad Muni without question. And so they circumambulated Kayadu, respected her, and then Narad Muni took her back to his own ashram and gave her shelter there until Prahlad was born, until Hiranyakashipu returned. So in this way, in the ashram of Narad Muni, Kayadu was there, and every day she would hear Narad Muni describing Krishna Katha and preaching Krishna consciousness, because even without planning or without scheduling classes, the nature of a great Vaishnava is Satatam Kirtayantamam. They're always discussing the Lord. They're always talking about the Lord. So if you associate Labhamatra Shadru Shanga Shavishidi, or even a moment with a great devotee like Narad Muni, you can get all perfection. What to speak of several months, Kayadu was there and she was hearing from Narad Muni. And even though Kayadu, because she was in anxiety and her husband having not returned, Kayadu actually was in anxiety. She couldn't remember the instructions of Narad. But in the womb, the child, Prahlad, in the womb, he heard everything. And so we'll hear subsequently when Hiranyakashipu inquires from Prahlad, where did you get all this knowledge? He got it when he was in the womb. He heard Narad Muni is the guru of Prahlad. We don't hear subsequently Narad coming and teaching Prahlad. He heard all those teachings in the womb. And in this way, Narad is considered the guru of Prahlad Maharaj. So for ladies who are carrying a child, ladies who are pregnant, then the hearing and chanting should be increased. And Bhagavatam mentions particularly from the seventh month onwards. At that time, the mother should regularly be hear the class, attend the temple, come to the temple, hear the kirtan, hear the class, and in this way, the child in the womb will be benefited, and this is very auspicious. Already the child is devotee because of performing the Garbhadan Sanskar, and then during pregnancy, when the child, you're facilitating the hearing of the Bhagavatam, then it is very auspicious. The child can become very advanced in Krishna consciousness from very early age, just like Prahlad Maharaj. So chapter 5 of this canto goes on to explain how in childhood he was not interested in material, mundane play at all. He wasn't even interested in sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, talking. He wasn't even thinking about those things. They were just being automatically performed. He was remembering the Lord, even in his childhood, like that. And sometimes he cried, sometimes he laughed, expressing his love of Godhead. So Hiranyakashipu, he entrusted Prahlad. It seems like in the younger years, these symptoms weren't so recognizable that he was a great devotee of Vishnu. But Hiranyakashipu entrusted him to the school of Sanda and Amarka. They happened to be the sons of Sukracharya, who is the guru of the demons. And they tried to teach him politics, economics, and other material activities. And then after attending the school, the Gurukul of Sanda and Amarka for some time, Hiranyakashipu, he comes home, he sees Prahlad, he's very affectionate. He takes Prahlad on his lap and he asks that, tell me, what's the interesting thing you've learned in school? When you see kids, we often ask, so you learned this, you learned that. What is your age? You can speak a little English. We ask them. So he's thinking the child is going to say some childish, simple things. We learned that 5 and 2 equals 7 or something like that. So Prahladu Vacha, Tat Sadumanye Shurya Bharya Dehinam Sada Sabudvigna Diyam Satrahat Hitvatma Patam Grihamandakupam Banam Gotoya Dhanimashayeta. This famous verse, Prahlad Maharaj speaks. Young boy, he's 5 years old. Prabhupada quotes this verse regularly. That Tat Sadhu Manye, the thing that I think is the best thing. You've asked me, what is the best thing I've learned? Tat Sadhu Manye, to think that what I've learned, which I consider the best, Asurya Varya Dehinam, oh, best of the demons. Prahlad, he addresses his father, Hiranyakashipu, best of the demons, Surya Varya Dehinam. He says that the thing that I have learned, which I consider most useful, is Sada Samudvigna Diyam Asat Grahat. As soon as one becomes Asat, Grahat, as one becomes Grahat, asat, attached to a temporary thing. That's called asat grahat. Sada samudvigna dhyam. Then there is samudvigna. There is anxiety, dhyam, in the mind, sada, constantly. Sada samudvigna dhyam asat grahat. When you become attached to a temporary thing, then there is constantly anxiety in the mind. When will this be taken away? Who will steal this? When will I lose this? In this way, the so-called pleasure of this material world actually simply increases our anxiety. Prahlad says, this is the best thing I've learned. Once you give up household life. He says, once you give up household life, the place where atmapatam, self-realization, finishes, banam gato, go to the forest, and harim asrayeta, and take shelter of Lord Hari. Now, when Hiranyakashipu heard this the first time, he was a little taken aback that, what? But he wasn't so angry. He just thought that, look, you have to look after this boy. Somehow or other, it appears that Vaishnavas have influenced him. Vaishnavas maybe in disguise. They've influenced him about this Hari Bhakti philosophy. So you be very careful and you protect him from any such Vaishnavas in disguise. In the purports to this section, Prabhupada says that the Vaishnava can wear any cloth, any dress for preaching, because if he goes to the colleges wearing the dress of a Vaishnava, he may not even be allowed in. So our college preachers, they go in the plain clothes with the hair, they wear in the plain clothes, and gradually they introduce the Krishna consciousness to the students. And in this way, it's only after 2 or 3 years of cultivation in college programs of Krishna consciousness that one actually meets full-time devotees, brahmacharis, comes to the holy Dhamma, etc., gets the full gamut of Krishna consciousness preaching. So in this way, we can strategize our preaching, and one can wear disguise in order to be more effective in preaching where necessary. In the Western countries, it's necessary, sometimes traveling in different countries where our preaching is not legal. It's also necessary for the higher purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada himself went to Russia. He didn't go as a religious missionary, although he went and he initiated one disciple. He was there for 2-3 days. He met one disciple, he initiated. He began the preaching in Russia, but Prabhupada wasn't legally allowed to preach there. He went on a tour. Although at that time he did meet with professors. He went and met with the Russian professors. So then they began, Sunda and Amaka, hearing this advice that from Hiranyakashipu, they began educating him in these precepts of material education, how to diplomacy, how to pacify leaders, how to appease and give lucrative posts, and in this way increase one's political position, how to divide the opponents, divide and rule opponents, and how to chastise and punish in the case of disobedience. So he was learning these 4 aspects of diplomacy, creating friendships, creating the division in the enemy, learning how to chastise and punish, and learning how to pacify other leaders. He was learning all these diplomatic things. So after some more training, Sunda and Amarka, they dressed Prahlad in nice clothes and bathed him and decorated him, and they brought him before his father. So Hiranyakashipu was so affectionate, tears gliding down his eyes, which were moistening the head of Prahlad Maharaj as he had him on his lap. Such affection Hiranyakashipu had for Prahlad. And then he says, Hiranyakashipu asks, my dear Prahlad, you've learned so many things at school. So tell me, what do you think is the best thing? This time Prahlad answers, Sri Prahlad Uvacha, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padanam Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Bananam Dasyam Shakyam Atmanivedinam. The best thing I've learned is these 9 processes of devotional service: hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, serving the Lord's feet, worshipping, becoming a servant, becoming a friend, offering everything to the Lord. These Navavida Bhakti. So this time Hiranyakashipu became angry. What is this nonsense? You've taken complete shelter of the enemy. So then he became very angry with Sunda and Amarka, and he's saying, what have you taught my boy? He's propounding all of this Vaishnava philosophy. This is unacceptable. And then they said, no, and they said, we haven't taught him this at all. This You know, we don't know. We kept him secure, not that anyone came, any Vaishnavas came and polluting him, but we protected him. This, he says, this spontaneous devotional service is just developed naturally in his heart. So very angry, Hiranyakashipu, very angry with Prahlad. He says, you rascal. He says, if you haven't received this from your teachers, then where have you got it from? Where have you got it from? It's very interesting. Prahlad's response, Sri Prahlad Uvacha, Matir na Krishna Parato Satovo, Mito Bivadeta Grihapratanam, Adanta Gobi Vishadam Tamishram Puna Punashcharvita Charvananam. He says that Matir na Krishna, one's mind, Matir na Krishna, one's mind will not be inclined to Krishna, Matir na Krishna. Parato Svato, Mito Abhibadeta Grihaprata, even if one tries on one's own, or parato, or even if others try for one, or even a combination of both, mito abhibhateta grihabhratanam, because of being so much grihabhrata, so much vowed determined to enjoy this world and enjoy this body, that's called grihabhratanam. And adandagobi, because of unbridled senses, adandagobi, unbridled, uncontrolled senses. Adandagobi vishitam tamishram puna punashcharvita charvananam. Again and again. Charvita charvana, that which you've tried in many lives. So already you've tried these things. Already you've enjoyed these things in many lives. But again and again, you will try to enjoy these things because of unbridled senses. Such a person's mind will never become attracted to Krishna. This is the answer that Sri Prahlad Maharaj gave to Hiranyakashipu. And then he went on, Nate vidu svaatagatim hi Vishnu. They do not know, Nate vidu svaatagatim hi Vishnu, that their real self-interest lies in Vishnu. Durashaya yei bahirartamanina. They've taken shelter of the material energy, durashaya. And bahir artamanina, they're thinking that the material energy is very important. The bahir arta manina, they think that the bahir is arta. The material energy is very, very important. Material life is very important. They're blind and they're being led by the blind. And this way they miss the real purpose of life and they fall into the ditch, being bound. Yadarta Mahisham Bada Rajobhishekam Nishkinchananam Navriniti Yavat. He says, unless such persons smear their entire bodies, Arukramangri Sprashatyanata with the Mahisham Pada Rajobhishekam, with the dust of the lotus feet of a great Vaishnava, who is Niskinchananam, who is completely devoid of any desire apart from serving the Lord. Unless they smear their entire bodies with the dust of the lotus feet of such a great Vaishnava, there is no possibility of such people to ever become inclined to Krishna consciousness. So this is the glorious answer that Sri Prahlad Maharaj gave. These verses are often quoted by Prabhupada in his preaching. So angry, so absolutely, extremely angry, indignant, with reddish eyes, like molten copper. Hiranyakashipu, take this boy away from him and kill him. He deserves to die. And then the demon associates of Hiranyakashipu, Rakshasas, they took Prahlad and they tried to kill him. With weapons, they were striking the tender parts of Prahlad's body. And with fearful faces and reddish hair and burning coppery beards, they were calling out, chop him up, chop him up, chop him up, as they were poking him and stabbing him with their weapons. Prahlad Maharaj simply sitting, silently meditating, remembering the personality of Godhead. They threw him beneath the feet of wild elephants. They threw him into a pit of huge, ferocious snakes. He wasn't killed. They threw him from the top of a huge hill. He didn't die. They administered poison. He didn't die. They starved him. He didn't die. They exposed him to severe cold winds, fire, and floods. They threw heavy stones on him from the top of mountains. Nothing could kill him. He couldn't kill Prahlad no matter what he tried to do. This is completely frustrating for Hiranyakashipu. So then he decided, let's see, he's still young. Let's put him back into the school. And over the time, he'll grow out of it. He'll grow out of this religious fanaticism. He'll grow out in, just like it's like at the moment we're trying to straighten him out, like trying to straighten a dog's tail. Just curls back again. So time will cure him. So in this way, they send him back to school. And then in school, what did Prahlad do? Even though being threatened by and his father trying to kill him, what a traumatic situation. But Prahlad undaunted in his preaching. So in school, Prahlad Maharaj begins to preach to the sons of the other demons. Kaumadet achiret pragya, dharman bhagavatamiya, dulabha manasham janma, tadapi adruvam artadam. He's taking, during the break, lunch break, he's training them in chanting the holy name, raising their hands and chanting the holy name of Krishna, Prahlad Maharaj. And he's preaching that Kaumaret achiret pragya, from the very beginning of life. Kaumaret means at the age of 5. Achiret pragya, one should begin to behave pragya, like a self-realized person, with deep philosophical, applying deep philosophy, even from the age of 5. Dharman bhagavatamiha, because in human life, dulabha manusham janma, it's very rare. Tadapi adruvam, although it's temporary, archadam, it's very meaningful, human life, very meaningful, because dharman bhagavatamiha, in human life, you can practice devotional service. So we can bow down, take our head and bow down to the Lord. We can offer prayers to the Lord. We can taste the prasadam offered to the Lord. We can see the deity. We can embrace the devotee and smell the flower. We can chant the glories of the Lord. Very difficult to do these things in the lower forms of life. So having attained the human form of life, we shouldn't use it for the same pleasures which are available in the animal species. We should use it for practicing Bhagavad Bhakti. In this way, Prahlad was preaching to his school friends. So when Sunda and Amarika, they found out that he was turning the other students into the devotees, they went and reported to Hiranyakashipu, then that was too much for him. He said, I've got to finish this. We've got to finish this now. He decided to kill Prahlad Maharaj on the spot. He just like a snake, hissing, a snake which had been trampled under the foot. He was hissing like a snake. And he called Prahlad. Prahlad stood before Hiranyakashipu with folded hands, mild, gentle, peaceful, and with crooked eyes. Hiranyakashipu, he rebuked Prahlad with harsh words that my anger is so terrific that the planetary systems, the 3 planetary systems, they tremble when I demonstrate my anger. How is it that like a rascal like you, can you be so impudent that you're fearless in front of me? So Prahlad replied that, my dear father, the source of your strength is also the source of my strength. He's the source of everyone's strength, moving and non-moving, superior and inferior, including Lord Brahma. In former times, Prahlad continued, there were fools like you who considered that they conquered the 3 worlds, but were unable to even conquer their own 6 enemies that are victimizing us: kama, krodha, lobha, tata. These enemies, lust, anger, greed, selfishness, wrath, were unable to conquer these 6 enemies. And you're thinking you're so proud, you've conquered the 3 worlds, but you're unable to conquer these 6: anger, lust, greed. You've wasted your life. You're a failure. You rascal. Hiranyakashipu replied, you minimize my value? This type of nonsensical talk is only indulged in by those foolish who are about to die. Oh, most unfortunate Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu says, that you're always describing a supreme being who's above everything, who's control of everyone, who's present everywhere, all pervading. But where is he now? And where is he now? Why is he not present? Is he present in this pillar? Is he present in this pillar? Obsessed with anger. Hiranyakashipu, with great bodily strength, chastising Prahlad again and again. He took his sword. He got up from his throne. He took his sword. And with great anger, he struck that column. And then from that pillar, from within that pillar, in the assembly hall of Hiranyakashipu, from within that pillar came a tumultuous sound, which appeared to crack the covering of the universe. The sound, it reached the demigods like Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma and the demigods, they thought, well, what is this? Now we're all going to be destroyed. So to prove the statement of Prahlad Maharaj that the Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of the assembly hall. Of course, the Lord can appear under any circumstances. He appears in the dungeon of Kamsa, from the conception of Vasudeva and Devaki. He appears here in Navadip under a Nim tree, the Sachi Sutta, the child of Sachimata. He can appear in any way, and he appears on this evening from the pillar. From the pillar, he appeared from the pillar in the assembly hall of Hiranyakashipu. And he exhibited that wonderful form which had never been seen before, which was not that of a man, nor an animal, nor a lion. Not a Hari form, half man, half lion. He appeared in that wonderful form in the assembly hall of Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu, he was overwhelmed. He was shocked by the sound, the cracking sound within the pillar. And then, as that formidable being, that extraordinary being, Narsimha, he appeared. Hiranyakashipu simply astonished, gazing, staring at that extraordinary form. Obviously, understanding that there will be a fight. He's looking, he's studying this extraordinary creature, half man, half lion. So Narsimha was very angry. He was extremely fearsome. The form of Narsimha, Bhagavan Narsimha, that we worship here in Mayapur. You can see the Abhishek today. So many devotees have come from all over the universe. So many exalted devotees have come here just to participate in this Narahari Abhishek today. It's got to be the most extraordinary worship of Narsimha on this planet, the Narsimha Chaturdasi Abhishek here in Sri Mayapur. So that form of Narsimha, when he appeared, he came out of the pillar and he's looking, where is that rascal, Hiranyakashipu? He's looking, where is he? Just coming out of the pillar. That is the form, Ugra Narsimha, that we are worshipping in Mayapur. And that is the form, Ugra Narsimha form. It's not worship, this form. Very extraordinary. Usually we're worshipping Prahlad Narsimha or Lakhi Narsimha. He's appeased, Shanta Narsimha. He's being appeased. He's being, by prayers of Lakhi Devi and Prahlad. That worship, that form of Lakhi Narsimha is worship, or Prahlad Narsimha. But Ugra Narsimha, when he's looking for Hiranyakashipu's form, is not worshipped. Only worshipped here in Mayapur by the Naishtika Brahmacharis. Only the Naishtika Brahmacharis can worship this form of the Lord. So you'll see here in Narsimha Puja in Mayapur, only done by Brahmacharis and Sannyasis. So his fearful face, his deadly teeth, that form of Narsimha, Hiranyakashipu, his razor-like teeth, and his tongue, which is like a dueling sword, his ears, which are erect and motionless, his jaws parted fearfully, his entire body touched the sky. His neck was short and thick, and his chest was broad. His waist was thin. Today you can see the form of Narsimha. Usually you can't see, he's surrounded by ornaments and dress, alankar, but you can see him today undressed just with the gamsha for the bath. His waist is thin, and the hairs on his body is white as the moon. His arms resembled the flanks of soldiers, spread in all directions, and carrying the disc, conch shell, club, and lotus flower. So then Hiranyakashipu, he attacked Lord Narsimha, taking up his sword and his club. And there was a fight. The two great powerful beings were fighting. Hiranyakashipu, he by chance he was able to slip out of the grip of the Lord, and all of the demigods were perturbed. Perhaps the Lord will be defeated. He took a few moments rest from the fight, Hiranyakashipu. And then, just like a snake is playing with a mouse, Garuda captures venomous snake, Garuda, just like Garuda capturing a venomous snake. Even though let him go a little bit, played with him, let him go of it a little bit. Then Narsimha Bhagavan, he captured Hiranyakashipu. He held him, took him on his lap. Hiranyakashipu, his arms and his limbs were waving here and there. He knows that he's caught. He knows that his final moment is coming. He's exasperated. His legs and arms waving as Narsimha pinned him down, held him on his lap. Very much afflicted, being captured by Narsimhadev, Hiranyakashipu. And then supporting him, taking him on his body, taking him on his thighs. Supporting him on his thighs in the doorway of that assembly hall. As Hiranyakashipu, he begged for the benedictions, not by any weapon, not at daytime, not at nighttime, not inside or outside, not by any being you've created, not in the sky or on the ground. All of these benedictions were fulfilled. As Narsimhadev took Hiranyakashipu, not at nighttime, not in daytime, in the dusk. We will fast today till dusk. Not inside, not outside, in the doorway, not by any weapon. He took his nakam, his nails, from his nails, and he pierced the chest of the demon, and he tore open his abdomen. And then taking the intestines of Hiranyakashipu, taking the intestines and garland them around his neck. Well, this is the glory of Narsimha Bhagavan, Narsimha Avatar. His mouth and the mane were sprinkled with blood, with drops of blood, and his fierce eyes, full of anger, were impossible to look at, licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narsimhadev, Narahari, decorated with a garland of intestines taken from Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, resembled a lion that had just killed an elephant. So in this way, we can meditate on the transcendental appearance, the glorious appearance of Narsimha Bhagavan, who appeared on this day at dusk this evening to Paritranaya Sadhunam, to deliver his devotee Prahlad Maharaj and rid the universe of the terrible demon Hiranyakashipu. Now, everyone was afraid. Prahlad was afraid to have Narsimhadev. He's completely angry with the body of Hiranyakashipu on his lap. Lakhi Devi, she was afraid to approach the Lord. The demigods were all afraid. Eventually, Prahlad, he went and offered prayers to Narahari, and Narahari blessed him. And in this way, he became peaceful. So we'll conclude there. I don't think we'll take questions. We don't need to take questions on this subject. Are questions expected? Any comment? It's already time past the time. Are questions expected, or shall we complete?
Hare Krishna, anybody would like to ask something? 1, 2.
Okay, Radhika, question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Wish you a very happy Narsimha Jayanti. I just have 2 questions. One is, Prahlad is a very dedicated devotional soul, and he had to go through a lot of trauma. Of course, Hiranyakashipu was lucky because he chanted the glory of the Lord. But why did Prahlad had to go through this? Because karma should not technically apply to him, one. And second thing is, how does karma account settle? So let's say that I do a bad karma to B.
You can answer the first question. That
sure.
Sometimes there's a saying in Bengali language that sometimes the mother, she chastises the daughter for the benefit of the daughter-in-law. Even the daughter doesn't require chastisement. So in this case, the example of the devotee that doesn't give up the service of the Lord, even under extreme circumstances, that his life is threatened in so many extraordinary ways, in so many fearful ways. But he never compromises and says, okay, I'll give up this Hari Bhakti stuff and I'll do what he never does that. So that lesson has to be demonstrated, that how great is the devotee's determination to serve the Lord. So the Lord, he demonstrated that lesson with the great devotee, so the great devotee has to suffer. great devotee has to suffer in an unjust way. This is the point. It's very unjust the way Hiranyakashipu is out of envy. He can't tolerate the fact that his son is so much in love with Lord Vishnu and so much devoted to Lord Vishnu. That's very frustrating for him. And for that reason, he wants to kill him. So this is very unjust. This is very demoniac. And so the Lord himself will protect the devotee. So this is the message that we receive, that a devotee doesn't need to require, doesn't need, the Lord Nrsimhadev, he's Bhakti Vignavanashana Rashinga, he will remove the obstacles for the devotee. And so such a pure, unwarranted, unjust, unfair treatment of Prahlad Maharaj has to be unwarranted. It has to be unjust. A perfect devotee has to suffer in that way. And in that way, the Lord's kindness upon the devotee can be seen and in its full glory. There was another question, Radhika?
Hare Krishna, sorry, couldn't unmute. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation and clarified. One doubt is, if I do karma, let's say I'm Radhika, I'm doing karma to a person B. So next time, my karma account should get settled. So will B be born again to settle counter karma, or it will be coming in some other form?
Well, Radhika, it's very complex, very complex. And definitely, we can't try to make an operation to try to, organize things in the karma and complex. It's very difficult. It's like a banyan tree. In Gita, in 16th chapter, Krishna explains like a banyan tree. So you can't really determine where the root is, where it begins and where it ends. And so you can't try to retrace or even plan ahead or act in such a way. It's very complex, and you don't know what karmas are there. You may not be aware of. They may be coming. So therefore, Abda Palam Papam Kujam Bijam Palanmukam Kramanaiva Praliyate Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam, quoted in the purport to the second verse of 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada quotes from Padma Purana that Aparabda Palam Papam, the previous karmas and the present karmas, and even the desires that have not yet manifest, Kutam Bijam Palanmukam Kramanaiva Praliyate, they're all one after another removed, Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam, if you perform Vishnu Bhakti with great devotion. So we don't worry about these things, Radhika. Just chant Hare Krishna and preach Krishna consciousness.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Happy Narsimha Jayanti. Hare Krishna.
Anything else on today's topics of the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev?
Hare Krishna. Surya Prakash.
Surya Prakash.
Surya Prakash, please speak.
So we can conclude there on this point. We encourage you to, if you can observe fasting today, that's wonderful. You can take your prasadam in the sandhya, in the evening time when Lord Nrsimha appears. If you have a program you can attend in your various localities, that's wonderful. If not, you can on Mayapur TV, you can watch the Narahari Abhishek in Mayapur, which is so special and so goes for many hours. Lord Nrsimhadev is bathed here in full Aishwarya opulence, and we encourage you to view that Abhishek. And we look forward to subsequent opportunity to discuss the glories of the Lord in your association. Thank you, Namnishta Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hare Krishna. In the evening, we also have 5:30, the program. I think you already got the link. You can join.